It's apparently obvious that anytime you take 103 million people from a continent and kill 85 to 90% of them, that to me is on the face and surface of it is genocide.
The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. Have mercy, Lord. Have mercy.
You could imagine trying to diminish the futurity of a people, to take away their future. So I'm not sure that I have a working definition of genocide, but there seem to be various kinds of possible definitions.
Clearly, it's based on the number of people that were killed, right? Genocide also has to do with the destruction of culture, right? And in that sense, we're peeling back the layers now, okay, to understand who we are, you know? But clearly our culture was annihilated and destroyed.
Any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or part a national, ethnic, religious, or racial group, such as killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, and forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. So, I mean, it's really important in that definition, and sometimes we forget about that it's not exclusively focused on physical destruction, but it also, very importantly, talks about the destruction of a community's ability to reproduce itself.
A system that destroyed, maimed human life. The moral issue is there. Secondly, here, if indeed here you see it as an economic dynamic, okay, and we are products of the British common law system, there is some liability associated with having killed these people, all right? And somebody has to pay, all right?
And there's an assumption that genocide is worse than slavery, right? Or somehow if we call something a genocide, then it's really serious. And that sort of implies that slavery is not really serious, right? And so I question the premise, because I think that genocide and slavery are both massive crimes against humanity. So you're wrenched from your culture, your society, your language, everything that you knew, your ancestors. Brutality was, I mean, there was rule by terror. You know, branding, various forms of torture, fear, and terror.
That it not only perpetuates violence against an individual, but generations of people, right? And if we think about violence not just as bloodshed and people dying, but we actually think about the material cost of separation of families. We think about the material cost of displacement of economic stability. We think about the material cost of the not impossible nature, but the very difficult nature of trying to self-determine as a Black person in America as a consequence of slavery and the displacement of even our identity and our culture. And I think that all those things added together would definitely constitute a form of genocide.
Maybe 5 to 6 generations removed from slavery. However, my experience did locate me in the post-slavery moment. That is to say, when they developed legal segregation. I grew up in the South as a boy and experienced legal, what is called de jure segregation. I was a sharecropper, all right? As you know what sharecropping means, it means basically you work and someone steals your labor. I worked the fields with my mother from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. We worked year round. We worked sometimes 6 and 7 days a week. I'm saying is that, and this is basically the same habits that were brought over from slavery. I lived in a separate society. That is to say, in segregation, there are two different worlds. There is the white world and the black world.
Mother was from Alabama, and my father was from Mississippi. Her oldest brother was accused of stealing a cow. The whole cow. And he was sent to prison. And he got hurt while he was in prison. And the wound that he had basically set up gangrene, and that's how he ended up dying. If they wanted a better life, they had to leave the South and come north where jobs was available. So she came to Chicago in 1951.
I'm about 5 years old, and the bus is coming, okay, and the bus is coming. And I look down the road, and I'm ready to get going. It's the bus. I'm going to school for the first time. And my mother grabbed me and pulled me back. And she said, you cannot get on that bus. And I said, why can't I get on that bus? She said, that's the white kids' bus. We don't get on the white kids' bus, okay? And then she didn't tell me much more, but at that moment, at age 5, my innocence was shattered, that this was a dual system here.
In our neighborhood, it was integrated. We lived next door to Mexicans and everything. And my friends were white that lived on the block. I had 3 black friends. The rest of my friends was mixed, all kind of nationalities.
As a boy, also not having the ability to go to the theater. We would have to go into the back of the theater and go to the top and not seen by anyone, okay? I remember not being able to hold my head up when I spoke to the white drugstore owner because my mother said, you never look these men in the eye, okay? I'm saying is that clearly I was being socialized subserviently and expected to act so, so I think that's my experience with that. The rudiments and the residuals of that system still remain in the segregated South. Everything
Was good. It was good when I was small. I moved in the neighborhood where I live at in 1960. There were no vacant lots. There were no gangs. But after the riot, when they burned down everything, it was a big change. They could do something to stop the violence. It wasn't always bad like this.
I know the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize.
We're at a moment of structural racism, all right? That structural racism evolves out of the system that was created as it relates to slavery, all right? People recoil because in order for us to, as Obama often say, make a more perfect union, we have to engage this imperfection, all right? If it is a structural problem, we have to go to the very essence, the root of it, to address the problem. And nobody is willing to give up white privilege to change America in a way that may not be in its best interest, to address this particular problem. It expresses itself in so many different ways, okay, whether it is the education gap, or whether it is the black people killing each other on the street, or police killing each other on the street.
Form of reparations that never actually came to fruition also can lead you to understand that it is a form of genocide. And I think one that doesn't get as much attention in contemporary discussions because of the ways that we see black people self-determining and being resilient and having positions in society But when we look at the state of Black people as a whole, and in terms of all the markers that you use to see the vitality of a community, in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of economics, we are still seeing the weight of slavery.
So that would be the two components, a moral issue and an economic entity. Clearly, if we raise the whole idea of reparations, okay, for this miscarriage, it becomes problematic, okay? The Chase Manhattan Bank and others, the New York Life Insurance companies, all those who participated in the slave trade through its financing, whatever have you, will have hell to pay, you know, in terms of having to address those kinds of issues, all right? So I think that there are two components, not just because, you know, we don't like it, you know, and that it's reprehensible, you know, there are those critical things, I think, is what people have problems with.
It is shaped into the very fabric of the United States of America. And so if you care about the United States of America, you need to care about the ways in which white privilege has been extracted from African American people. If you care about freedom, you need to try to think about freedom not as an absolute condition to which we can all eventually aspire, but as a social relationship that involves the privilege of some and the abjection of others.
I know the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Keep your